The weirdest thing that ever happened to my family is my sister finding out she was dating our long-lost brother. You're probably asking, how did this happen? So when my sister was about 1, my mom was pregnant with another baby. She ended up birthing my brother, but me being 1 year old really didn't understand. Like, you really can't comprehend that you have a brother at that age. And fairly soon after this, my parents ended up getting a divorce. So my dad was originally from Germany and he decided to move back. Well, because you can't really do weekend visitations in Germany, my parents made the executive decision to split up the kids. My mom kept us and my dad got my brother. And we honestly didn't care. We didn't really know what was going on at that age. And after that, we didn't have any more contact. So fast forward 20 years later, my mom and my sister aren't really talking because of a whole separate situation. And she was going to our town's community college and met a boy. We can call him John. Well, John asked her out on a date and they ended up dating for 5 more years. Over the years, she learned stuff like his dad was from Germany, his dad passed away, and he didn't really have any contact with his mom. Follow my Insta for part 2. Storytime part 2 on how my sister ended up accidentally dating my brother. So over the course of dating John for about 5 years, she picked up a lot of information about his life. Essentially, he said that he came back to his birth home to go to community college here after his dad passed away. In Germany. His dad never said anything about his mom, so he never knew name or any info. While this seemed kind of similar to our brother's story, she just wasn't thinking about it. It happened when she was so young that it just didn't really cross her mind. And my mom and her were not on speaking terms, so it's not like my mom could just recognize him. Anyways, since they were dating for so long, he ended up proposing to her. She was so excited and ended up bringing him over to our grandma's to spread the news. When they walked in, my grandma made the weirdest face. She asked what his name was and then broke down into tears when he said John. She was like, "Oh my God, that is your long-lost brother." And the only reason she knew it is because my dad had contact with her before he passed away. They were obviously very disgusted because they were engaged and had done the nasty. We now have family reunions now that my mom and her are on better terms, but it's still weird.
So I used to know this girl who would constantly say things like, "Guys, sorry, I'm so ugly. I just ruined the whole group photo, I'm sorry." And then everyone would automatically comfort her and be like, "No, you're beautiful. You shine." And then she would be like, "No, but thank you." And she would do the same thing over and over again, trying to get everyone's attention. So eventually, I got tired. So the next time she came to me saying, "I'm so ugly," I was like, "You know what? You are." She was like, "What'd you say?" And I was like, "Bitch, if you think you're ugly, I can crop you out of the photo. The fuck do you want me to tell you? I'm not the one who made you look like a woolly mammoth."
Storytime about when my best friend set me up to get sexually assaulted. Little background. I got bullied a lot in school because girls are just mean, and boys too. I also did modeling and acting, so kids were really mean about it. I didn't have any girlfriends. I mostly hung out with my twin brother and all of his friends who were super nice to me. Let's call her Anna. Anna was the mean girl. Everyone wanted to be in her good graces, so people would just do what she told them to do. She was funny and she was pretty much friends with everyone. She eventually befriended me. Things were going just great at the beginning, but then rumors started. I didn't know who started them, but I definitely didn't think it was Anna. I went over to Anna's house one night and she was really mean, and I'll do another story time about that. But a few weeks later, she invited me to a party. I show up and it was definitely not a party. It was only a few people. I knew 2 of the girls that were there, but the rest were total strangers to me. She tells all of us to go to her garage. But once we got there, she tells everyone to run out and she locks me inside the garage with this random guy that I don't know. Then he starts trying to kiss me and grab at me. Part 2 is up. Then he tries to kiss me and starts grabbing at me. I pushed him away, ran to the door, and started pounding on it. Well, guess what? I could hear Anna and the rest of her little friends laughing. I begged her to let me out, and she said, "But he likes you. He just wants to get to know you." And then they laughed some more. And the guy told me that he liked me and that he's noticed me around school, but that he never got the chance to talk to me. That's when I tell him, "But you don't know me and you're trying to kiss me." Then he said that Anna told him that I liked him. I told him I had never even seen him before. Then I started yelling really loud and pounding on the door. Anna opens the door and tells me to shut up because her mom is gonna hear. They just kept laughing. I run to the phone and tell my mom to pick me up. I did not have the courage to tell my mom. I confronted Anna and asked her why she did that. She said I was exaggerating and that they were just trying to have some fun. The following week, I'm in class and I can hear Anna telling a group of girls what had happened. And she was talking loud enough so that I could hear it. Told them that she planned the whole thing and that I fell for it. And worst of all, she started telling everyone that I lost my V card. Part 3 is up. She told everyone in school that I lost my V card all thanks to her. I also overheard her saying that I was so stupid for having fallen for a little plan. Then a girl from my class comes up to me and starts telling me that Anna was talking to some boys, asking them to make anonymous phone calls to my house. When I got home that day, I got a bunch of phone calls. I answered the phone and a boy on the other end said that he was going to do terrible things to me and that he knew where I lived. I started getting weird notes in my locker. Anna would start talking bad about me right in front of me, loud enough so that I could hear, and other people in class would laugh. That's when I decided that I needed to call her mom and tell her everything. I started by talking to Anna's sister. I told her everything and she told me she wasn't surprised. Later that day, I called her house and her sister made sure to answer the phone. I told Anna's mom everything. She made Anna call me to apologize, and I could just hear it in her voice how much she hated it. I asked her why she didn't like me and she really didn't have an answer. Anna actually started following me on Instagram and sent me a DM back in 2018. I didn't answer. I think she's working at a call center now or something like that.
Story time on how I got pregnant at 12 years old, and the guy who I was talking to at the time was 18, but he told me he was 15. Anyways, my child's father, which we're going to call Kareem, I met at a summer party, which, by the way, I wasn't supposed to go to, but I sneaked out with my friends. Me and Kareem met at the party. He asked for my number, but I gave him my Instagram instead because at the time I didn't even have a phone. I had an iPad mini that I would use at home. So I text him on there just about every night. He always talked about how I was the only girl he wanted, and my naive 12-year-old self believed everything he was telling me. Maybe 2 weeks later, he asked me if I was a virgin, and I didn't want him to think I was weird, so I said no, even though I was. And this is when everything starts to go wrong. Come back for part 2. This is part 2 on how I got pregnant at 12 years old, and the guy I was talking to at the time was 18. So, like I said earlier, he asked me if I was a virgin, and I said no, even though I was, because I didn't want to look like a weirdo. Kareem starts talking about how we should go on a little movie date, and that he'd buy me popcorn and whatever I wanted from the movie theater. So, Friday night comes around, I sneak out of the house, and I met with Kareem down the street. He pulls me close and said that he wanted to blindfold me because he had a little surprise. I was nervous, but I trusted him, so I allowed him to blindfold me, by the way, which was the biggest mistake ever. So he grabs my hand and holds my bag, and all of a sudden, I hear people, and I get picked up, and I feel multiple people feeling on me. This is when the night takes a turn. I'm running out of time. Please come back for part 3. This is part 3 on how I got pregnant at 12 years old, and the guy who I was talking to at the time was 18. So Kareem blindfolds me for a surprise, and I get picked up. And it felt like there were multiple people picking me up. I screamed and told him to get off of me, and I tried to take my blindfold off, but Kareem yells out, "No, not yet." And I started to get a little confused and scared, and this went on for like a good minute, and I was just struggling to basically get away. Then I hear doors open and I'm screaming, and Kareem tells me to calm down. When I finally get put down, I end up smacking someone in the face just so they could let go of me. When I snatched my blindfold off to see where I was in someone's room. This is when it gets really manipulative. I'll be back soon as possible for part 4.
Story time on how I got caught sleeping with my boss by his boss. Well, I worked at a law firm. It was a very small one. There was only about 3 lawyers, the CEO, if we can call him that, and then 2 other lawyers. Well, I had a crush on one of them, and apparently he had a crush on me. Let's call him Kevin. Well, Kevin and I have been flirting for about 2 months, and honestly I was ready to give it to him. But I lived with my parents, and he was married. I know, home wrecker. Well, it was Monday, which is our slowest day of the week. The CEO had to take the day off, and the other lawyer called out. It was just us 2, and another receptionist. But I told her she could go. Obviously with my second intention. Well, not to give too much details, Kevin and I got our groove on in the CEO's office. Again, we didn't know he was going to come in, but apparently he needed some important documents. And well, he caught me and Kevin doing the dirty on his desk. Yes, I was butt naked. Well, long story short, we both got fired.
This story time is a warning to please be cautious if you ever speak to someone over the internet. So when I was 14 and still in high school, my local area was going through a weird stage where someone was trying to contact a lot of the 14-year-olds and see if they wanted to join an escort agency. This was done over Facebook, and of course, most of the girls just ignored these messages. However, my friends and I thought it'd be funny if we ended up messaging this person back. Obviously, bad idea. We weren't serious about meeting up with this person, we really just thought it was a big joke. However, once I was by myself, I continued to message this person. They kept commenting on how beautiful I was and said that I was like a sister to them. I was obviously very impressionable at 14 years old and was wanting all the attention I could get, so I continued to message the person on the other side of the phone for the next couple of weeks, not realizing that I was being groomed. After the next couple of weeks, I was sitting in class and I got an extremely panicked message from my mom saying that I need to come home immediately and that she needs my phone. I guess a family friend of ours had told her about the messages and had also seen a lot of the escort advertisements. So my mom read through the messages, quickly called the police, and the conclusion was to block the account and be more careful next time. I thought it was case closed, but I was wrong. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2 on how I was groomed over the internet at the age of 14. So after the police took several statements from my mom and I was told to block the account and just be more cautious, I thought everything was done. But 3 years later, I was sitting with my friends when I got a phone call. The police had contacted me saying that my statement had come up again in another case. This is when they let me know that it wasn't an escort agency at all. It was a man who was sitting by his computer and messaging young girls to come meet him. He had been doing this to hundreds of girls for the past 15 years. The next couple years of my life were filled with police interviews and statements, waiting for actions for me and his other victims. The guy had a trial but pleaded not guilty, which meant that we all had to go to court. The court date was set, but obviously the coronavirus became a huge issue, and it was set to be moved to another date, which I was very thankful about because I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter, and just overall fearful of what would happen. So this guy had a warrant out for his arrest and he didn't show up for his plea bargain, so he was put out as a missing person, which we were all notified of, but that scared me to death. However, we ended up getting a phone call recently saying that they found the man and he had taken his own life. And that's how everything ended. I hope everyone stays safe, and if you have a story you'd like to share, follow me on Instagram and DM me.
One thing I learned is when cops show up to a party, do not hesitate to run. There was a group of kids that stayed hiding in the basement. They hid in a closet, they hid in just like under the couch and rooms and shit. And then there was another group of kids who ran out the back door. Me and my buddy were a part of that group. So we're all running like a free-for-all, and this kid's backyard is just straight wilderness. Me and my buddy end up getting separated, and I'm fucked because my phone is dead. We gotta be at least like a quarter mile into the fucking forest by now, so I'm freaking out. I need to find my buddy. We need to meet up and do what his dad told us to do. So I'm standing all alone in the woods, and I just start screaming, "Gary!" A few seconds goes by. I hear my buddy scream from a distance, "Gio!" So we keep screaming like that until we eventually find each other. And my buddy was just with 2 random girls that we like didn't even know. They were staying by him because they were scared and they didn't know where to go. So now it's time to execute the plan his dad told us to do if shit went wrong. My buddy picks up his phone and calls his dad. His dad answers and he says, "Dad, we're in a bit of a pickle." So his dad's just like, "I'll be there in 10 minutes. Do what I told you to do." So pretty much he just wrote us this route we had to go if we had to run. When you look at this kid's house from a hole, there's the main driveway that leads up to the garage. And then on the side of that driveway, there's a gravel driveway that's like surrounded by trees. So he has 2 driveways. So we're in the woods right now. We navigate, dude. We do all these fucking maneuvers and we had to go through a bunch of thorn bushes. I'm getting scraped up. Now, something I didn't mention before. I had a backpack on with some herb in it. About 3.5 grams. So yeah, I was like shitting my pants. So we're going this route his dad told us to go, and eventually we hit the gravel driveway. We see his dad parked in his SUV right at the end of the driveway waiting for us to just get in the car. The only problem was on the main driveway, there had to have been at least 8 cop cars. We look to our left and see like 20 kids with the cops just all getting booked, dude. So I just look at my buddy, I'm like, "Dude, don't even look at the police, let's just walk." We straight up just walked down this gravel driveway, past all these cops, past all these kids getting arrested, and we literally just get in my buddy's car. I'll never forget, his mom was sitting in the front seat, and his mom was like, "Gary, where's your sweatshirt?" And my buddy was just like, "It's in the basement." And his mom told him to go get it. And his dad was driving, and his dad was just like, "Fuck that," floored it out of there.
When I was 15 years old, I found out I was pregnant with twins. My boyfriend at the time was 21 and had nothing to do with me. When he knew I wasn't going to give them up for adoption or abortion, he walked away. My mom was disappointed, but she helped me throughout my entire pregnancy and my delivery. A few weeks before my due date, my boyfriend texted me saying he broke up with this girl and that he wanted to get together and he was going to try to become the best dad he can. After the twins were born, it was blissful for a few moments until my mother started becoming toxic. She would take them places without my knowledge, and I would wake up to an empty house not knowing where my kids were. She started overriding my decisions, and when I confronted her, she told me she knew better because she was an adult, and I was in no position to contradict her. After years of this happening, I finally had enough, and I managed to get enough money to afford a hotel for a couple of nights while I decided what to do. I asked my aunt to watch my kids for a few days so I can go out and find a job. And when I returned to the motel, they were gone. All of them. When I returned back to the hotel, my twins and my aunt are missing. No phone call, no message, no nothing. Coincidentally, my mom calls and says that my best friend told her that my twins were missing, even though I told no one. She was yelling at me on the phone saying she was so worried and it was obviously my fault because I was so young, and at that point I was really suspicious because I could hear my aunt in the background talking to my mom. So at that point, I knew she took them to my mom's house. As soon as I hung up on the phone, I went to the police station to file a report. For a few days, the police went undercover to try to get evidence, and there was many pictures showing my mom taking my twins to their house. When we took her to court, she said that they ran away due to my abuse and she found them in the middle of the street, which was obviously a complete lie. My mom had paid my boyfriend to give her false information that I was hurting my kids. After a long and gruesome battle, I won the case and my mom can't see them until they're 18. Even though my boyfriend at the time had a major part in it, he only has visitation limitations, which is once every 6 weeks. This happened 3 years ago when I was 18. I am now married to the love of my life and the best father in the world.
Story time about the most embarrassing sex experience I had in my life. So that night we were on a date and I got my hair, nails, and makeup done. And my hairstylist had me try on this glueless lace wig. It was so cute. Fast forward, after we went out to eat, we went to his place. And things got a little busy. It was very heat of the moment. And I turned over because he about to beat it up. And boy literally starts pulling on my hair. And instead of telling him not to pull on my hair, instead I just decided to hold on to my wig. And you know what happens? He pulls off my wig. And I was so embarrassed. But then he put the wig on his head. And he kept going.